Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mupo and Friends.
We are JESSILYN Pearson,
And I'm Michelle Mupo.
We're brought to you by Mupo TV.
That's right, and you can catch all of our shows at www.mupoentertainment.com.
And you can live chat with us every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel, where we premiere each episode.
That's right. You need to stay tuned Sundays, 2 p.m. Eastern, and come and visit us in our live chats. You never know which celebrity is going to be in there, and you could probably ask them a question. And keep in mind, they will answer the questions.
They sure do. Thank you for tuning into our show, where we love bringing you awesome celebrities and entrepreneurs you want to know. So, Michelle, did you have a Mupo awesome week?
I did have a Mupo awesome week. I'm going to tell you, Mupo is making progress. How about you?
Absolutely. I always have a Mupo awesome week.
That's right. We're going to keep that Mupo awesome going, and we want you to say Mupo awesome as well. So on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with our special guest.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Mupo and Friends. Our special guest today is a childhood cancer survivor who went on to get degrees in both biology and archaeology. Knowing that wasn't her calling, she taught herself to play guitar from a VHS tape and a Hal Leonard book, and quit her job as a research scientist to pursue a career in music. She's a songwriter, musician, and entrepreneur who also uses her own passion for music to teach others. Please welcome Lauren Bateman. Hello, Lauren. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Hey, Lauren. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No, we're very excited. And for those of you, I'm just going to, before we even start the questions, I want you to put out your YouTube page, because if you guys want to take guitar lessons, this is the woman that will drive you.
Yeah, I am the guitar teacher, the female guitar teacher on YouTube. I always tell people, like, it's a sausage fest over there. So I'm trying to break through over there. But my YouTube, it's youtube.com/Lauren Bateman. If you just throw that in there, my name, it'll take you to my YouTube channel, where I really focus on helping, beginners learn how to play guitar, or people who've kind of been dabbling on their own for a few years and they feel like they're kind of lost and they don't know what to do next.
Awesome. So because you've wasted piano lessons as a kid, your mother discouraged you from getting guitar lessons. How do you feel? How did that feel, and how did that affect you? Can you tell the audience, please?
Yeah, so I started on piano and I just hated the instrument. I just didn't know how it worked. I got taught like that classical old style and sight reading. I was horrible at sight reading. And I just didn't know how it worked, and I hated it. And then in high school, my sister bought me a guitar as a confirmation gift, and my mom was like, "Don't buy it. She's not going to use it. You're going to waste your money." And, like you said, I had that VHS tape, and I was like, this really sounds kind of cool. I understood how the instrument worked because I learned about chords. And I think if I had learned that on the piano, I'd probably be a piano player today. But I'm a very creative person, so the guitar, for me, I was able to figure out how to be creative on it much sooner. And that's kind of the approach I take when I'm teaching, is just to have fun. So I think for me, it was just like this became an outlet for me to, I don't know, have a voice and write things down in my head. I was in high school at the time, so obviously you have a lot of up and down emotions in high school. So I think for me, it was like the perfect gift at the perfect time, because I had a lot to say, but didn't really have a vehicle to say it. And the guitar really gave me a voice. And that's what pushed me to learn more about the guitar, because when I first started teaching, believe it or not, I didn't really know anyone else's songs. I had learned the guitar solely through writing my own stuff. So that was the interesting part about it.
That must be a woman thing, by the way, because that's how I write.
Yes. Lauren, why did you decide to quit your job as a research scientist to become a musician?
Yeah, so, being a cancer survivor, I had Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 16. So I got into cancer research. So that was, obviously that made sense at the time. But I found, I was working at a contractor. I worked for a pharmaceutical company, and I went on this cruise that was, it was called the Cayamo Cruise, and it was a folk festival on a cruise ship. And there were lots of different artists. I brought my guitar. They had open mics, and I had so much fun on this cruise that I came back and I was like, I need to do more of that. It made me realize how much I loved music and how happy and freeing music made me feel. So I kind of came home and was like, Googling like how to phase out of your job to do music. So eventually what happened was, I started teaching out of my apartment because, when you're playing original music in bars, in the Boston area, you're not really making a lot of money. So I started teaching, and turns out I was good at it. But I didn't even start with guitar because I wasn't very comfortable. I started with voice because I had at least taken voice lessons and had some understanding. Guitar, I was like really nervous about teaching because I didn't feel like I was qualified because I didn't have a degree in education and I had never really gotten any guitar lessons. So I'm like, all right, well, how do I teach people how to play guitar? But I realized that I had something to offer for beginners. So that's what really drove me, was just my passion for music.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know you taught yourself guitar. I want to go back to that time. Okay. When you picked up your guitar, what did you do? You picked it up, and did you know to make an actual chord from looking at, on TV at MTV, or did you just,
Yeah, I mean, it started with that VHS tape. That was like the first chords I learned, and I had that Hal Leonard book. So the Hal Leonard book was going back to sight reading. So like I had done sight reading with piano, so I was familiar with the sight reading. But then towards the end of that book, you get into actually learning chords and strumming. And as soon as that happened, I just threw the sight reading like out the window. I'm actually still very bad at sight reading. I can sight read rhythm pretty good, but I'm horrible at sight reading melody. But once I learned it, I'm like, oh, this is a C chord, this is a G chord. And intuitively, I just was stringing things together, because obviously if you're a musician, you know that songs are written in specific keys and there's certain chords that go together. I didn't have a music theory class until like my mid-20s, when I finally did take guitar lessons later, to be like, I was writing songs and I didn't know why they sounded good. I just think, fortunately, I had a good ear for what sounded good versus what sounded bad. And it was just a lot of experimentation of like, okay, let me try these chords in this order. Well, that stunk. Let me try it in this order. And that's really how I just developed my guitar playing.
Okay. The reason I asked that is because I can't really read music. I do everything by ear.
Yeah.
So
I'm the same
I didn't know
way.
if that was going to be hard. See, if someone like me wants to take your lessons, I need to know, like, I know I've seen them. You're very good. Very good.
Yeah. And I don't focus on sight reading. I tell people, I'm like, I do focus on rhythm reading, because I think I play mostly rhythm acoustic guitar. So rhythm is very important to understand. And I took drum lessons as an adult. And that's actually where I really honed in my rhythm reading skills, was by being a drummer. And that made me a better rhythm guitar player, because I actually understood the structure and the timing of rhythm. So for me, like, I really could care less if you could sight read, Mary Had a Little Lamb or whatever you got to sight read from a book. For me, I just want you to understand like basic rhythm concepts and how timing works, because that's just so important, especially if you want to play music with others. You got to learn how to be in time with everyone else.
Right.
Yes. So your first solo appearance was in 2006 at the Penthouse of Club Felt in Boston. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that was, I had just started taking singing lessons. So I didn't start taking voice lessons until I was 23, so after college. And I had been, again, playing the guitar on my own, still hadn't taken a guitar lesson at this point. And I was writing songs, and my voice teacher kind of encouraged me to do a show. I kind of wanted to like play some of my songs for people live. And I actually worked as a bouncer at the club. It was a women's nightclub, and I was one of the bouncers there. So I know the woman who ran the show, and I said, hey, do you mind if before the club opens up, could I invite a bunch of like family and friends and bring my little PA system, and do you mind if I do a show? And she was fine with that, because obviously you bring people in, they pay a cover, they drink beer, everyone's making money, so they're happy. So that was my first show with like this little crappy PA system that I bought on like Musician's Friend, probably for like $200. And I had my little Ibanez guitar and a little mic and a music stand, and that was it. And I forget, I think I played for like maybe 45 minutes, and that was my first show ever.
That's fun.
And
Yeah.
how do you choose what story you're actually going to tell when you write a song?
It just depends on my mood. So a lot of my music is about one particular relationship that didn't go so well. I think for a lot of people there's that. But sometimes it's, if I'm inspired by something in the news, but a lot of the stuff I write is biographical in a sense.
So what inspired you to write your new release, Here I Am?
That one, yeah, I mean, it was just, so the first one was I've Been Waiting, and that was just my first collection of songs that, you write over the course of years. And Here I Am was me feeling like I was stepping more into myself as a musician, because at that point I had taken some guitar lessons, I had been taking voice lessons, so I felt like a lot more of an accomplished musician at the time. And, some of those songs, again, are still biographical, but some of those songs were written about, different things. For example, Unsung Hero is on that one. And that's, I think I read an article about someone fighting a war overseas, and it was about, the unsung heroes of war, and, these people who go off and fight in these wars, and they come home and they're kind of like the unsung heroes of the nation.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's kind of like my Keep the Peace song. So
Yeah.
We're going to have to bring you in on that project. Maybe we can get you on the compilation with that, because we're doing something for all the veterans who serve.
Yeah, I love veterans. I have a lot of veterans in my course, actually.
That's beautiful. That just gave me goosebumps. So
Yeah.
now what musicians have, basically influenced you?
Yeah, so the biggest ones, I mean, the one who I grew up that I wanted to play, like I always wanted to play, Melissa Etheridge tunes. That was a big one. I'm a big fan of Brandi Carlile. I'm actually going to see her this weekend. Pat Benatar, Heart, all those kind of female rockers. Those were my big influences growing up. Stevie Nicks. My dad always had like the Stevie Nicks cassette tape in the truck, and I always remembered listening to Stevie Nicks growing up. So.
Right on. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back with Laura Bateman. So Laura, what is your non-traditional approach to teaching guitar?
Yeah, so, I didn't like the sight reading growing up, and everyone goes with that classical approach. So for me, I take it from the approach and the standpoint of like how I learned a guitar. I wanted to learn guitar because I wanted to play music, not because I wanted to sit there and like strum out little notes to Mary Had a Little Lamb. I wanted to play real music on the guitar. So my approach for my students is we focus on kind of like the three main elements, which is getting flexibility and dexterity in your fingers. This way you can actually shape the chords. So we'll learn about chords, how to change between them faster. And then I really focus on rhythm and strumming, and really being like, okay, these are the foundational elements that you will need to play any song that you want. If you know the chords and you know some strumming patterns, you can put those together, and you can actually start playing songs and feeling good about yourself and feeling good about the process of learning guitar. Because I have so many people who come in and they're like, I've been going all over the place, and I can kind of play parts of a song here or parts of a song there, but I can't play a song from the beginning to the end all the way through, and they just get frustrated, kind of going through that cycle. So that's my goal. The first song I teach people is actually America, Horse with No Name. Super simple song, but it's just that motivation song to be like, hey, this is really easy. Let's get you a win here, right in the beginning of the course. Let's get a win and show you that this is possible. Because once you do that, it's just like that snowball, and you start rolling the snowball downhill, and that's where it starts.
You're absolutely correct. And can you tell us, the audience, about the therapeutic benefits that music actually has for people?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I get a lot of veterans that are in my course, and they write to me. I get a lot of like Vietnam vets, and a lot of them, for them, the music is helping them with their PTSD. I get some people who've, lost their husband or their wife recently. So now, they're retired, they're alone, and the music kind of helps them get through that, or people who've lost parents and stuff. I get so many emails from people who are just like, thank you so much for what you're doing. Because even for me, music, like I said earlier, was that voice, because I grew up in a very, very strict household, and, we didn't really get opinions. You were told what to do, and you didn't get to ask why or have an opinion about it. You just you were told to do something and you just did it. So for me, the guitar, like I said, became my voice. So for me, it was very therapeutic because it allowed me to get the emotions out that I could never get out otherwise. So that was helpful for me. And I think for anyone else, it's just like music is part of your soul. So, everyone learns an instrument for their own specific reasons. And that's even, I own a music school in the Boston area, and that's what we tell people. Like, we want to work with you in the unique way that you love music. All right. So if you want to go and you want to learn lead guitar and play solos, that's the route we'll go. If you want to go and learn chords, that's what we'll do. Because there's just so many benefits in terms of stress relief, keeping your mind active. But I just think the emotional benefits of, when you hear a song on the radio, it can instantly bring you back to a moment. And I think that's important for people, especially older students, because that music holds so much experience and life experience for them. So I think being able to work through that in their own way is super helpful.
I love that. I love that. So what was a path that led you to living in the moment?
Yeah. For me, the biggest thing, I always come back to, having the cancer at 16, you learn very young that time is limited. Most people aren't told at 16 that they might not live. So that was a big wake up call. But that's for me. People know me as the person who's like, if you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. I don't tend to wait for other people. I'm pretty impatient on that. I remember when I was in my early 20s, I wanted to go to Aruba. I don't know why I wanted to go to Aruba, but for whatever reason, I wanted to go to Aruba. And nobody wanted to go. I didn't have friends who had any money. I'd been saving up for this trip, and nobody wanted to go. So I was just like, whatever. I'm going to go book a hotel. I'm going to book a flight, and I'm going to Aruba. And everyone's like, why did you go to Aruba alone? That's dangerous. And I think this was a couple of years after that girl had disappeared in Aruba. But I went anyway, and people were like, why did you go? And I'm like, because I wanted to go, and I'm not going to wait for other people to be ready to go. I'm ready to go now. So I'm going whether anyone's coming with me or not. And that's just how I've always been. I just, I understand that life is precious, and that every day, for me, every day I wake up is borrowed time at this point. So, I just want to make sure that I'm saying yes to as many things as possible.
Now, how did you get started with the amazing Elena Cardone, and how has she helped you? Because I think everybody, that's how I met you.
Yeah. So, it's quite a long story. So I'll give you the abridged version. I have been following the Cardones for years, and I went to their first GrowthCon down in Miami. I think this was 2017-ish. I think that was the first one. And I met a woman down there who became my business coach, and I actually still work with her. Her name was Danelle Delgado. That's the reason I'm online and have a YouTube channel, is because of her. She was the one who encouraged me to go online. And, I just kept showing up to a lot of their events. And when I would, go to the events, if I saw Elena, I would say hi. In the earlier days, they weren't as like high profile as they are now. So I remember the first time I met her was that GrowthCon, and, she's coming in, she has like this white blazer with like a white mini skirt, and she's got like her Starbucks coffee, and she's just coming over and having just completely normal conversations with anyone that was in that back VIP section. So I had like a half-hour conversation with her, and I was like, wow, she's just like a really cool, like down-to-earth person. And I was like, I'm gonna stay in touch with her and make sure I stay in touch with her. So I followed her on Instagram, and I think at the time, her Instagram had just gotten started. She might have had like 2,000, 3,000 followers at the time. And so, we always kept in touch through Messenger and stuff. And over the years, I kept showing up to the events. So she kept recognizing me. She started, knowing me by name and stuff. And her and Danelle obviously stayed friends, and they have a work relationship. So during COVID, a friend of mine needed some video editing work, and I was bored as hell during COVID. I was lost for probably like the first month, and I was scanning through my Facebook page. I don't know if you know the gentleman. His name is Glenn Lundy, and he does a show on Clubhouse now that's pretty big. He's also another 10Xer. Glenn was actually sitting in front of me at the first 10X, so I've known Glenn since the first 10X. But anyways, I was, Glenn had done a Facebook Live. He was looking for someone to do some simple video editing for his Instagram. He wanted some short clips chopped out, and he was like, I'll pay someone if you need money. So I reached out to him. I was like, Glenn, I don't need the money. I was like, I'm just bored out of my mind. Can I just edit the videos for you? And like he did pay me money because, he's part of that group, money for value. And so I edited a bunch of these videos for him. And that kind of got me back in the groove of like, okay, I'm here to work. I'm here to like edit my YouTube channel. Let's get going. So a few months later, I get a call from Danelle, and I'm like, I better answer this because like Danelle doesn't call me very often, so it's probably important. So I answer the phone, and she was like, oh, I was just talking to Elena, and she was talking about how she needs some help with her YouTube channel, getting some content up there. And I told her that you do that you do YouTube and you understand the platform really well. Would you be able to help her with this? And because she said, obviously, Elena knows Glenn Lundy, and Glenn had told her, I guess, how so the whole circle came together. So I said, sure, like just, give her, her and I talk on Instagram, just tell her to message me. And if I can, we'll have a conversation. If I can help her, I'm more than happy to help. And if I feel like I'm not going to do justice for what she needs, then I'll be honest with her and tell her. So Elena ended up calling me, and we had a conversation, and she said, I said, let's give it a try and see what goes. And so I officially help Elena on the back end with, a lot of her YouTube stuff, uploading her content there. And yeah, so that's how the whole thing started.
Wow. So
Yeah.
What in your life brought you to one day I wished, the next day I did? And the day you wished, what happened?
Can you repeat that again? So one day I wish, the next day I did, is that?
Yep. And so what in your life brought you to one day I wished, the next day I did? And the day you wished, what happened?
Gee, that's an interesting question. I mean, I've wished for so many things. I think this whole online sphere that I'm in now in terms of the guitar lessons, for me, I always wished that I could have a bigger impact. And, like I said earlier, I have a couple music schools here in the Boston area. So I was helping people learn music more on the local community level. And I said, I really want to have more of an impact on helping people. Because we were talking about the benefits of music. And I'm like, Danelle was telling me, you have a really unique story in that, like, you didn't go to school for music. It's your passion. And you have a very unique way of teaching and a unique way of life and how you live life. And you need to share that with people. So that was it. That was kind of the breaking point. And she actually told me, she's like, if you don't go online, you're being selfish. That's what she told me. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going online. And that was it. That was the doing. The doing was, okay, I picked up my phone because all my YouTube videos in the beginning were just done with my phone. and I just pressed record, and whatever came out is what came out. So that was the beginning stages of being like, I want to do something bigger. I feel like I have more inside of me that needs to be heard, but I wasn't sure how I was going to do it. And her encouragement allowed me to take the action of being like, okay, I'm just going to press record. I'm going to start teaching guitar lessons on YouTube, and let's see what happens.
Awesome. We're going to take a commercial break and we'll be right back.
And we're back with Lauren Bateman. So Lauren, what songs actually never get old to you? That you, because it's like one of those things. Like it's got to be a Melissa Etheridge, right?
Yeah, well, I mean Melissa Etheridge, but interestingly, when I was younger, I was a huge Janet Jackson fan. So Janet Jackson music is, for me, that's kind of timeless. I could listen to Janet all day long and not have an issue. Obviously, Melissa Etheridge, particularly the Secret album, because I was listening to that a lot in high school. I used to listen to that like every day on my drive home from high school was the Melissa Etheridge Secret album, and that's got some cool songs.
Cute. You have degrees in both biology and archaeology. Have they helped you at all with the path you chose?
I mean, I think everything happens for a reason. Did they teach me about business? Did they teach me about musicianship? Probably not. But I mean, I had to work hard to get those 2 degrees. I started in college with archaeology. And this just must tell you about like my personality. The coursework for that was so easy that I was like, I need to get a second degree because I get bored. I don't like being bored and I don't like sitting still. So I was just like, I'm going to get a second degree, maybe something that's a little bit more useful than archaeology, which led me to the pharmaceutical company and all the work I did there. I just think it's one of those things like, I was going through the typical path in life. You go to school, you get educated, you go to college, you get a degree. I really wanted to play sports, but my mom was like, nope, you're going to college because like, that's not a viable pathway. And then it was like, I wanted to go in the Air Force and my mom didn't want me to do that because like that had its own thing and the government would own you and all this stuff. So I had very limited options for what I could do. As long as my parents were footing the bill for it, you kind of had to do what they say. That just kind of brought me to the point of figuring out what I liked and what I didn't like. I did love science. Science is my other passion in math. I love that stuff. But in terms of like how it got me to where I am, I can't say there was like a definitive point other than it brought me to the pharmaceutical company and I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do, that music was really what I wanted to do.
So tell us about the Red Bra Project and how you became involved with that.
Yeah. Oh, it's very interesting because the Red Bra Project, the girls who run that, her father is in my course. Her father is in his 70s, his mid 70s. And, he took a bunch of courses and he was like, yours is the best. I've been trying to learn guitar. And he reached out to me. And I guess he told his daughter about this guitar teacher and that she had to get me on the show. And we did an interview and a show. But yeah, his name is Dennis and he's one of my guitar students. So that's how it all came about.
Right on.
So cool. As a childhood cancer survivor, what advice would you give to someone who feels hopeless over a cancer diagnosis?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty devastating to hear that you have cancer. I mean, fortunately, I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is pretty curable, but, they still can't tell you with 100% certainty whether you're going to live or not. So, because they called my mom and my mom, got the phone call. And that's what she was saying. She's like, well, what do I tell her? And they're like, well, she's like, can I tell her she's not going to die? And they're like, you can't say that because we can't guarantee that, but you're going to tell them they're going to fight like hell. So that's what I would tell people. Just go into it knowing that you're going to fight like hell and try to stay as positive as possible. I think, being young for me, I think it was easier and a benefit. I know for me, like I said earlier, I was big into sports, and I have a scar on my chest here. I had to get a port put in for them to have my chemo. So they were like, you can't play soccer, because if a soccer ball hit me and this broke, I mean, it basically goes right into your heart. So if it broke, you would just basically die and bleed out. So again, wonderful, wonderful things for a 16-year-old to be dealing with. So I went and I got a lacrosse protector, like I don't know what they call that, whatever the defense thing that you put in over the equipment. And I brought it to my oncologist and I said, can I wear this? And can I play soccer? Because that was just something for me that was such a part of my life that I didn't want to give up. And when you have cancer, you want to try and keep things as normal as possible. So they did. They said I could play soccer. I just couldn't be a goalie because the goalie gets the ball kicked at them all the time. But that's what I recommend. Just try and stay positive and keep life as normal as possible. I had ups and downs. I had days where I couldn't get out of bed because I was either sick, throwing up, or in so much pain. So I've had those days. But, the thing that came out of that is that I have a very high tolerance for pain now. So I always go back to be like, nothing is as bad as being in pain and going through like steroid withdrawal. That was the absolute worst. I've never had my joints ache like that before. So it gives you really good perspective. So I would just, try to be as positive about it as you can, and understand that your mindset is what's going to get you through it, and that you just got to fight like hell. And I, being younger and being optimistic, was like, yeah, no way I'm letting this win. And it didn't, but that part of that was the chemo too. But yeah, I would just say, try and stay positive and try to keep life as normal as possible, and do a lot of the things you love.
Now, what's on your to-do list for both professional and personal?
Yeah. So personal, for me, is to travel a bit more. I actually went to Iceland in July, which was really cool. We kind of snuck in the period where you could kind of get in and out pretty easily if you were vaccinated. So we had a fantastic time there. But I've always wanted to travel more. So there's going to be a lot more of that coming up in the future, and just making sure that like once a year we're doing something, like a trip that's really worthwhile, like an inspiring trip for us. Only because me being an entrepreneur, my wife is a nurse. So obviously with COVID and everything, she had a crazy year. But, we work really hard, and I think it's important to work hard, but I also think it's important to play hard too. So we want to make sure we're taking those proper breaks from life to really enjoy and see things. So that's kind of a personal goal of mine. And then professionally for me is really building out the online platforms on YouTube. So I am a guitar teacher on YouTube, and I do courses and stuff that I sell through my YouTube channel and through my website, laurenbateman.com. But I'm also starting a whole new YouTube kind of consulting agency for other people who want to be successful at YouTube, because I get so many musicians. I'm actually working with a lot of musicians right now who, COVID happened and they realized, like, I can't gig. I've just lost like all my income. People don't want to come for lessons. Like the Zoom thing, it can be plus or minus. So there's a lot of musicians who realize that like YouTube is an opportunity for them to make money. It takes time to build, but it's an opportunity for them to make money off their skill. And the gigging's come back, but you can still gig and do this at the same time. So I think it's a good way for not just musicians, but anyone that has like a skill set, fitness person, a cook. It's a great way to diversify your cash flow so that you're not always depending on those in-person interactions. I think that's what a lot of people have learned from COVID. So that's what I'm doing now is really helping people, kind of doing what I'm doing with Elena, and helping people on the back end, doing the SEO, the research, and what stuff does YouTube like, what does YouTube not like, what's working, what's not working, and all of that stuff.
Right on. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with the conclusion with our interview.
Love your bedroom eyes.
And we're back with the conclusion with Laura Bateman.
Wait, I have one more question. What is your favorite guitar chord?
My favorite guitar chord, probably, I mean, that's tricky. I really love 9 chords, so like, or an add 9, like a C add 9, or suspended chords, D sus2, D sus4. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with those D and D sus chords that's really fun. So probably D and D sus chords.
Before we wrap things up, we have one last question. If you were to interview yourself, what question would you ask and what would the answer be?
Ooh, if I were to interview myself, I think it would be, what would be the thing you would tell your younger self? I actually get asked that question a lot. And I think it's a good question because, I'm 38 now and you never know how life connects. Like how you said, oh, how did getting degrees in archaeology connect you to where you were? Well, I don't know if it directly did, but I had to go to college and you look back and all these connecting points and how things, even how I ended up working with Elena, like it didn't just happen. Life is a bunch of connecting points where the universe is just working. So I would tell my younger self, one, enjoy life before cancer. Just make sure you're enjoying life and expect that things are going to work out the way they're supposed to. I think a lot of times we try and force things to happen, and I have the bad habit of doing that too. But sometimes forcing things to happen, they're not going to happen no matter how much you push. Sometimes you do have to back off things to kind of give space and room for kind of, I don't want to be like the universe, because it's not like the law of attraction type thing. I really believe, yes, there's a law of attraction, but there is action behind that. You have to have action. But I think sometimes you could have too much action that you're kind of blocking things from happening. So I think it's very important to not always be forcing things. It's good to be moving forward, but just be aware and be okay with taking a pause sometimes and resetting. Because I've definitely, when I was younger, definitely burnt myself up by just nonstop. So whenever I feel myself like hitting one of those walls, I'm like, I'm going to back off for a second and see what happens here. And that's actually what happened with the YouTube channel too. I was pushing it and I got tired. I was like, that's it, I'm done, I'm going to quit. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to step back for a few minutes and see what happens here. And that's literally when the channel started taking off.
And you have an award behind you from YouTube, right?
I do. Yes, that is my silver plaque for 100,000 subscribers. Yeah, I broke 100,000 subscribers this year.
Right on.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. It's been a treat visiting with you. Look for Lauren on her YouTube channel under Lauren Bateman and the Red Bra Project, also on YouTube. You can follow, like, and subscribe to Lauren on Facebook under Lauren Bateman, at The Lauren Bateman, and at the Red Bra Project on Instagram, on Twitter at Lauren_Bateman, and at our website, laurenbateman.com. As always, thank you for tuning in to Mupo and Friends, courtesy of Mupo TV. You can watch this show and others on www.mupoentertainment.com. That's www.mupoentertainment.com. This is JESSILYN Pearson with our host, Michelle Mupo. Until next time,
have a Mupo awesome week.